Okay, so in terms of today and how it's going to look, we've got a bunch of teams in the room. I imagine it'll be 6, maybe 5 rounds of Swiss. At a guess, it'll probably be 6, and I'll confirm that. Oh, lovely. We've got people sitting down and the camera's working. That's really good. So we're going to have all of the Swiss rounds. We'll have one of the top tables on coverage, and then there'll be interviews periodically throughout. I've got ideas for a couple of the POG staff to have a chat with us, as well as some of the team members or team captains of the teams that are doing well. We'll then have a top 8, maybe a top 4, and we'll make sure that we, get some interviews going with those players as well. In terms of the setup, I'm in the back room, so if you see me looking off camera, that's because there's a door over here, and that is my access to the outside world. I've also got the lovely Alec Ferguson with me today. Hello. It's this camera. Who'll be doing the interviews because he's a people person and I'm not. All right, so it looks like we've got a match going. That's good. If you can grab the teams and let me know who's playing, that'd be grand. Hey, Kat, welcome to the stream. Howdy, howdy. So today is going to be a very different energy to the Balti Fight Night series. This is a really big event in an LGS, one of the best LGSs in Melbourne. So I'll be talking about plenty of games and talking about all the good work that they do here. But it looks like we have a match getting ready to go, which is really good. Yeah, I've got a couple of helpers, which is going to be really important. I'll make sure that each of the rounds that we cover today are appropriately accounted for. Okay, so we've got some players shuffling up for game 1 of round 1, which is super exciting. Unfortunately, actually, I'll see if it's better if I change to a different camera, actually. Just so I'm not looking down. That's a bad angle. All right. Never mind. We'll get rid of that. While the players are shuffling up and preparing, how will game score be displayed on screen if able to? It was quite a rush job this morning in terms of making sure that all of the tech was ready to go. If I get a bit of downtime during round 1, I'll see if I can get game scores and match scores going. The way teams events work is that there are 3 players on each team battling, and each match is worth 1 point in the overall team match. So if possible, we'll try to capture the game scores that are happening on the matches that aren't on screen. But otherwise, we'll be capturing the match that we can see, and then we'll let you guys know how things are going. Lovely. It looks like we've got Leo, Billinghurst, and Ben, who I imagine are on the right side here. And then we've got Billinghurst versus Alex. Okay, that's our cover match. And then Glenn and V.
Yeah, the Varun, I think.
Oh, Varun, yeah.
Oh, you know. Good.
Okay, so in that case, well, this isn't the middle match, so this is probably Leo versus.
Oh, this is
Varun, or is
no,
this? This would be Ben versus Glenn, then, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got Ben and Glenn. Looks like players are preparing their opening hands.
Should I grab them after the match for the interviews here, or?
I think we'll skip interviews for this round. I'll pop Charlie on screen after the match is finished, and we'll do a bunch of prep work for the rest of the day.
No dramas.
But you're all good. Take a breather. Thanks, man.
We'll do it.
Okay, so we finally got some magic coming. We're gonna have a bit of magic. We've got a Bloodstain Mire. I'll see if I can do life totals here. Get a text box going. Alright, if we put this here. That looks like a... Oh boy, this is gonna be a difficult day. Okay, so we've got to see. I don't know what that card is in play. I think it's a Tameo. Yeah, it's a Tameo. Okay. And we can see some cards underneath, which are from the match to the right of these players. So I'll cut them out here. Okay, so we've got an Underground Sea and a Tameo. Looks like a Delta is being cracked on the other side here. This is going to be a very manual process to update the life totals, so bear with me. This might be a bit of a struggle. But it should work. We've got what matters. Okay, so it looks like we've got a Steam Vents being fetched, so possibly an 8-point deck. Possibly needs the fetch land in the graveyard. And that looks like a Bolt on Tameo, pretty standard. So players are returning to parity here. Okay, we've got looks like a Portent in hand, a couple of other lands, snow-covered island and an arid mesa. So probably some form of Grixis here. Although the Portent is very interesting from the right side. I haven't seen a revealed companion. I don't think this is Breach. Although, with the cards that I've seen, Breach would make sense. So Potency is a Bolt, a land, and something else. Doesn't look very good, so we're shuffling. Thanks, Kat. Yeah, I mean this is a borrowed laptop, a borrowed webcam, a borrowed phone. This is a very bare bones coverage setup. Okay, so after the Portent, we've got a Duress. Duress is seeing Lorien revealed, Plains, Mystic Sanctuary, Counterspell, 4th Earlingus, and is taking 4th Earlingus. So, player on the left, very likely on some kind of 8-point Jeskai control deck. But if they're not getting a Volk with that fetch land and the Volk isn't in hand. So we've got 8-point Jeskai control at a guess, and then on the right-hand side, still unsure what the deck is exactly. On the left, we've got a Plains and Go. So very much a slow development for this game state here. We've got some land drops, we've got a couple of light bits of interaction, which is really good. Mesa Go. Okay. And then Cycle Lorien revealed. Probably going to get the Hallowed Fountain, I would imagine. Just an island. Okay. So Jeskai control, I think this is Leo's deck. And I do believe it has access to Blood Moon. Island Go, bit more do nothing. I just saw an LED. Okay, so play on the right, definitely on Breach. We don't have Lurrus visible. So it could be a breach deck that isn't Lurrus, although we haven't quite seen anything that would suggest otherwise. Looking through the deck as they're fetching, nothing too exciting. Quick question for chat. Is that fan coming through? I've got a fan set up here because it is incredibly hot. I'm hoping that that's not audible on the stream, but let me know if it is, and we can manage otherwise. So it looks like fetch, untap, and draw. We might see the Thoughtseize get fired off here. It looks like there's a Thoughtseize and a Bob in hand on the right. So we're probably going to try to make an action that's relevant, and we see Counterspell, Mana Leak, Daze, Mystic Sanctuary. So very much a defensive hand on the left. We're going to take Counterspell, which is the best Counterspell out of that hand. And then go, because we don't have a black source for Bob. So as the game develops, the deck on the left being a control deck versus what almost is certainly Breach on the right, being able to make more land drops is important. However, being able to see more cards out of the Breach deck is a bit more valuable than it is to the control deck being able to make more mana and have more interaction. Realistically, we need to see some kind of pressure be applied here. No fan noise at the moment, lovely. Who's on camera? Hey, Jordans. I'm not entirely certain who's on camera. I believe it's Ben and Glenn. Unfortunately, I don't have access to all the information, and my helper has disappeared. But at the very least, we know it's we know it's Breach versus some kind of Jeskai deck. So LED is put on the stack here, as well as a Dark Confidant. I imagine the Dark Confidant is going to get countered, but it's possible that the LED is being played specifically to pay for Mana Leak against the Bob. I don't believe it's Ben Tudman. This is a BEM team versus a different team. This isn't a bus stop match. All right, so Mana Leak on the Bob is going to get paid for by the LED. So clearly, we're really hoping to stick this Bob through the counter magic. There was a Mana Leak and a Daze. If the Jeskai player doesn't have a removal spell for this Bob, and it sticks, this is going to be a really big deal. However, if he does have an answer to Bob, then, the game's going to keep going. He's making his 4th land drop now. He has a Mystic Sanctuary in hand, so he's got 5 land drops ready to go. He has lost 4th Earlingus and Lorien, which are 2 of the bigger plays that would be available in the later game. So we'll see what happens here. Misty is getting cracked. It's getting a Hallowed Fountain, which is getting paid for, so down to 14. Which means almost certainly some kind of 4-drop. I imagine it's something like a Jace. It could be a Supreme Verdict just to clear the Bob and move on. We do know there's a Daze to protect from some kind of combo kill that's possible, but having cracked the LED to pay for the Mana Leak, we know that there's no cards in hand on the right. Spending 2 mana. What card is that? Is that a mission briefing? Okay. So we've got a mission briefing, which is kind of like a Snapcaster, if you don't know. Binning a Jace and keeping a card on top. And I imagine this is just for a bolt, and we're just going to pick off the Bob. Yeah, all right. That gets exiled. Mission briefing in the bin. Very interesting not keeping the Jace on top to surveil into. We rip a Preordain. It's pretty good. Sees Demonic Council Tundra. Demonic Council should be able to get anything here. I'm almost 100% sure Delirium is online. So if you Demonic Council for something like Breach without Brain Freeze, you could probably try and backdoor a kill. We're going to keep the Council, we're going to bin the Tundra, and then the question is, do we play the Council this turn? Looks like we are. Okay. So this is effectively a Demonic Tutor. Great. We lost the video feed. Oh, there we go. I'm pretty sure that's Demonic Council. Yeah, like I said, today's coverage is on a pretty sketchy setup, I would say. We've got a Wi-Fi connection for the coverage match. It's being sent from a phone, essentially, to the stream. So you'll have to bear with us if there's a couple of technical difficulties throughout the weekend. It looks like we've got a bit of slowdown here, but it's probably fine. I'll keep an eye on it. So Demonic Council has search your library for a demon, Delirium, search your library for anything. So it is unknown to the player on the left what the player on the right has searched for, which is very important for a combo deck. Oh boy, we so it looks like the video feed is slowing down. I think it's probably being processed kind of sketchily. I'll see if I can fix that. For now, I'll just let the match play out here. And I'll be right back. I'll go have a look at this and see if I can fix it. So I'll be right back. I'll have the match play out on stream. And I'll have Charlie to look over here. Test. Looks like I'm back. Okay, so video feed is still delayed. Okay, that's interesting to know. I've just checked in on the match over there and it's developed a bit. Okay, I'll have to manage that in between rounds. But for now, there's an Underworld Breach on the stack here. Relatively chocked graveyard. 3 cards in hand. We've got an LED. I don't believe there's a Brain Freeze or an alternate kill. So it's probably going to be for value with a couple of cantrips here. And on the opposite end, we've got 4 Theolingus that got cast. Okay. So it looks like Breach is resolving. We're going to cast Demonic Council, exiling 3 cards. So this should be lethal. Demonic Council will get Brain Freeze here. And then LED will cast the Brain Freeze, and then we'll be able to get through the rest of the deck. So this should be GG's. So here is the LED being put on the stack. That's the third spell now. LED is going to bin the Brain Freeze. The Brain Freeze is going to get cast with the LED mana. And Blaine should be able to deck himself, rip through everything else, and from there, assemble a lethal, presumably with a bunch of lightning bolts or just brain freezing Ben here. But yeah, this is going to be a deterministic kill here. I haven't been able to look at the left side's hand in a while. I would imagine that we haven't seen anything beyond the days that will be meaningful in this spot. So it should be over. And then we'll be getting into sideboarding. Make sure chat's working. All right, chat. So from here, this is going to be a kill, assuming that nothing very, very crazy happens. So while this is happening, I'll leave you all with Charlie behind me, who's my co-host, and I'll let the match play out and they can prepare their sideboarding. I'll see if I can go grab the scores and work out exactly what's happening in this match. So I'll be right back. We'll see you soon. So I've just got a scores update. So the team on the right is Michael Billinghurst, Leo Borka, and Ben. They're all up a game in their matches. And here it is revealed that Ben is in fact playing Lurrus Breach, and very conveniently forgot to reveal Lurrus as a companion in game 1. So made a note to reveal it for game 2. So Glenn on the left will be able to sideboard with that knowledge, which is going to be interesting, I think. So while the players are shuffling up, all right, looks like the players are finalizing their sideboarding and they're going to be preparing for game 2. While that's happening, I'll check in with you, chat. So I know the video dropped a couple of frames. It didn't look too severe. But now that we're about 20 minutes in, is everything going okay? A lot of the specs and a lot of the hardware that I'm working in is a little old. So I want to make sure that everything's functioning as intended. So that would be the camera feed, the webcam feed, and the stream and the bit rate of the stream. I don't think we're getting too many severe delays, although the video coverage from the table is a bit delayed, but that's fine. Shouldn't really be too much of an impact for the coverage side of things. So yeah, if there's any issues, please let me know in the chat just so I have an idea of what's going on. But otherwise, we'll let the players get into game 2 here. Now, as it is a teams event, there's usually quite a lot of chatter between team members. So if the day goes slow or if it goes a bit long, don't be too surprised, chat. If people are making really meaningful decisions and asking for advice, there's going to be a fair bit of delay in that sense. In saying that, there should still be plenty of time during the day for us to give you quite a lot of content. So there's going to be the coverage aspect of it. And again, we'll have an interview setup going very soon. Alex currently working on that. And that should be really fun. We can have some people on camera and make sure that everyone's having a great time. All right, and while they shuffle up, I just want to give a huge shout out to Plenty of Games. Today's event is being held in the store. Plenty of Games is an LGS based in Melbourne, in this part of the CBD, and it's easily one of the best LGSs I've been to in the last 5-10 years, I would say. It's a great store, it's a great environment. They're hosting 2 events this weekend. So today is Team Trios, and tomorrow is a singles event, which is a winner library. Both of those events are going to be brought to you live right here. And it should be really exciting to see how today goes and whether anyone adapts or changes their strategy for tomorrow. So keep an eye out. Make sure that if you're not here playing, that you're here watching, because this is what Highlander is all about. I've seen a lot of friendly faces over the course of the morning. People who have flown down from Sydney, people who have flown down from Brisbane, come up from Canberra and Adelaide, and it's great to see. All right, back to the match. We've got some opening hand decisions at the moment. So Glenn on the left on what looked like 8-point Jeskai. It appears he's kept 7, and Ben on the right is contemplating a 6 at the moment. Now, in a matchup like Control Deck versus Breach, the critical moment for the Control Deck is when they begin to apply pressure. So it's all well and good to have a handful of counter spells against a combo deck, but realistically, you need to put on some kind of pressure. You need to be threatening to end the game, and we did see in the last match for Theolingus, and that is one of the better ways for a control deck to end the game, being a very large fireball effect. So whether or not Glenn can get on the ground and start pushing forward is going to be very critical to how this game plays out. In terms of how it's starting off, though, both players playing a land. There's a Surveil versus a Portent, so we've got a little bit of hand sculpting, we've got some mana development. In this matchup, Breach is definitely the deck that needs to make its land drops more aggressively. If a control deck stops at 4 or 5 mana, that's probably fine. However, if the Breach deck cannot get to 3, which is a more common breakpoint, then that's going to be critical as well. Interstate teams playing, yeah, it's a really big day. It's really cool. I've seen friends from Sydney who have said hi already. Hoping to walk the floor and catch up with everyone and get a better idea of who's come down and who's playing for bragging rights here, which I think is realistically the most valuable prize that we can get out of today. Hey, Azakram, first time chatter. What format is this? This format is called Australian 7-Point Highlander. It's a community-driven format that was created in Australia, as the name implies. It is eternal, so every card that's legal in Vintage is legal in our format. So Black Lotus, Time Walk, Ancestral Recall, all of those cards are legal in this format. However, instead of having a banned and restricted list, we have a point buy system. So the most powerful cards all have point values attached to them, and you have a limited amount of points that you can spend during deck construction. I'll drop a quick link to the website, and you can read all about it. Okay, so Shock for a Water Grave, and that looks like a Dread Fugue. We're taking an EI, and we see a hand of lands, Fable, Council's Judgment, and something that I've missed. Fable does apply pressure, but it's not a massive amount of pressure. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see if Glenn taps out for it here. The fact that his hand has been revealed, and we know that it's quite light, we'd probably see a Fable getting cast here, just because it kind of has to. We need to put on some pressure. But if he draws something a bit more interactive, we could see a slower turnaround. Very interesting that he kept Council's Judgment in his deck. It doesn't really have a lot of targets that are high value. It's probably just a lack of other options, I would say. Okay, so Fable getting cast. It looks like it's resolving, which is good. Okay, so we've got a clock. We've got a Goblin Shaman, which is going to make treasure tokens. Glenn's going to be able to clean up his hand with the second chapter of Fable here. However, the shields are down. So it's entirely possible that after the Goblin Shaman is cleared and after the dust is settled, Ben gets to resolve whatever he wants this turn. I'm assuming that flip card is a Jace Rune's Prodigy? It is. Okay. So now it's a JVP, and we've got a second chapter of Fable getting fired off. Yeah, the camera's doing okay. I've checked on it. It's kind of just going to be what it is. Every now and then we might drop a couple of frames. but hopefully it's nothing too serious. So second chapter of Fable going to fire off here. I imagine we're going to see 2 discards. It might be 1, but I'm pretty sure Glenn's hand is quite medium. All right, so it is 2 discards. We're going to want to clear this Jace, and then ideally we're going to develop another threat. Don't know if that's possible here. So fetch for the Strand. This might shock. It might get an island here. Just an island. Okay. So you can see here, the control deck has access to 4 lands, and the combo deck has access to 3 lands. So both players are playing reasonably well to their curve. But the control deck spells all start at 3 mana. You know, all of the spells that matter are just more expensive, and he isn't able to hold counter spells up. Here we see a 4 Theolingus for 2, and it's going to crack in and deal 4 damage, which is a meaningful amount, and the Jace Friends Prodigy having 0 power does not threaten to get the Monarchy back. But this play is incredibly anemic. Glenn's going to draw a card, he's going to have the Monarchy, he's probably going to keep it for at least 2 turns, or at the very least have the ability to get it back. But Ben, the Breach player on the right, he has access to 3 mana, he can play a land for a 4th mana, he's going to be able to flip his Jace Friends Prodigy, and he knows his opponent's hand is A, weak, and B, he has 0 mana. He'll have access to Force Blue card, he'll have access to Daze, Misstep, and there have been quite a few fresh draws from Glenn's side here on the left. The Fable Chapter 2, the draw step from turn 4, and the draw from Monarchy. But whether or not that's going to matter is pretty unlikely. I would expect Ben to have a very big turn here. So Jace is flipped now. We're going to be able to cast a spell from our graveyard if we want. I think we're going to fire off a Ponder. Yep. And we'll see what the Ponder sees. It looks like pretty bad. Land, line revealed. So shuffle. Depending on what this Ponder draws as a random draw, Glenn could be dead here. That is a very real possibility. I don't know if we have access to LED. But the Brain Freeze is already in the bin. We need Brain Freeze plus LED plus Breach as your A plus B plus C. And we know Ben has another land as a Scalding Tarn, so at the very least he has access to 3 more mana here. And it's just a question of whether he plays a slower game or a faster game, really. If he decides to push the advantage, I think that's very reasonable. And see if he can squeeze out a couple of counter spells out of Glenn's hand. Okay, it looks like tick up on a 4th token and pass back. So in this spot, we know that Glenn has 4 mana, 5 if he plays a land. He has an 0-2 and a 2-2 and a Reflection that's flipped now, and he has the Monarchy. So the best practice from here is to try and nug at the Jace and reduce its loyalty, and just say go with as much mana available as possible. Because the Monarchy is going to generate incremental advantage. If he can find a way to stop the Breach player from winning the game, so a Rule of Law effect, Graveyard Hate Piece, those would be really high impact here. But otherwise, holding up double counterspell could also be reasonable. Here we see Glenn has fired off Brainstorm and is currently working out what to put back. And if he doesn't have a shuffle, he's going to draw one of them off the Monarch. So we might get a little Brainstorm locked here. If he does have a shuffle, Surveil into the bin. That clears one of the cards. That's good. And he has access to 3 mana to defend himself with. He can't get the Jace to 3 or less, which is a critical breakpoint for the flashback mode of Jace Rune's Prodigy, which practically means he's just going to have to do a little bit of damage and see what happens. No, we have a Priz ending. And it's going to be met with a Spell Snare. Okay. Well, if the Spell Snare resolves, the Jace is going to stick around. It's going to be able to flash back the Ponder. Glenn is down to 1 Hallowed Fountain in terms of how much mana he has to interact with here. He's got a decent grip of cards. He's going to get another card off the Monarchy. But I just don't think it's going to matter here. I think if Ben's hand is any kind of functional, and if the Jace can flashback something really powerful like Ponder, the game should be over. So the 4th token that can attack or can do damage is chipping away at the Jace. So Jace is now at 4. Which is still going to let Ben cast a spell here. Which is pretty scary if you're Glenn. Fetch for sewers, looking for some action. I know that Ben has a Reb in hand. I don't know what the other cards are. It's possible that it's just really light and he doesn't have the ability to pull off a kill. But I think it's incredibly likely that Glenn is shields down, or at least very close to it. So if he has the ability to go for it, he really should. Ben's a Seal of Cleansing. I think that's fine. Binning the Seal, which would answer the Reflection. Very clearly trying to end the game. So we'll see how strong this turn is. I mean, Ben has 4 mana. He has a Jace that can cast a spell. His opponent has 1 mana. He's got to be able to do something. If he can do anything meaningful here, he should be going for it. If he can't, and he's trying to interact with the board or slow the game down, the Monarchy is just going to end it. Glenn's going to draw too many cards, he's going to be able to hold up too many bits of interaction, and Ben's not going to be able to function well enough. So I imagine he's going to fire off like a Ponder if his hand is terrible, which I think it probably is. Yeah, we're going to see a Ponder. So we've got 4 looks looking for some action. Spell Pierce, Breach, and what is that, a fetch land? What does Breach do here? He has a Brain Freeze and Ben doesn't have a way to cast it. And he needs to try and Raw Dog an LED. Do you take the Spell Pierce, say go, and play Breach next turn? Doesn't look like his Breach is lethal. I don't know what the 3rd card is. I think it might be a Dragon's Rage Channeler. Kind of look like a Dragon's Rage Channeler. Oh, it is. That's convenient. Seeing a quarter of the corner of one card and I can tell what it is. That's good. That's why I'm in this seat. So Darcy's a big deal here. If the Darcy lives, Ben's going to have access to extra cards in graveyard, which will help fill the Underworld Breach. We know that the Underworld Breach was in the Ponder, so he's going to draw it either this turn or next turn. And if he gets to keep the Darcy in play when he plays Breach, it's basically just going to be every time he casts a spell, he surveils into the graveyard, and that gives him a 1/3 of an extra card. In saying that, Glenn is untapping with 5 mana. He has 3 creatures in play, all of which are relevant in terms of damage, and he has the Monarchy. Assuming he does anything important here, I would say Glenn has the advantage if he's able to interact with the Underworld Breach or with the Graveyard in some way. But otherwise, even without LED, this Breach is probably quite powerful. Okay, Reflection is copying a 4th token. Sure. So there's 3 4th tokens here. Darcy, I imagine, is a 3/3 on blocks. So making this token is probably to try to kill this Jace. I think it's very unlikely we can kill Ben here. Looks like a blue Elemental Blast targeting Dragon's Rage Channeler. We know that Ben has a red Elemental Blast, but he doesn't have red mana, so he might have another counterspell that he can use to keep the Darcy alive. Looks like a Drown in the lock, sure. And then we're going to bin the Spell Pierce with the Darcy trigger, and then Spell Snare is going to counter the Drown. So Ben's top card is Breach. He has red mana, but he has lost his Dragon's Rage Channeler, and he's about to lose his Jace, and his hand is a little light. Oh, all win face. Oh, I think the Jace is on 2. Can't flash back another spell. That makes sense. Okay. So Ben's taking 6 here, down to 7. What spell is that? Alright, so Ben's untapping. He's drawn the Breach that we knew about. His Graveyard's a little light. His hand is a little light. And there's kind of just not too much going. It looks like he's buying Lurrus and saying go. It's pretty sketchy. Glenn's picking up. Oh, it must be a top then. Okay. Oh, we're just drawing before untap. Sure, that's fine. So Glenn can do another 6 here. Put Ben to 1. I think that's probably not the most useful. Putting a mission briefing on the stack, it's probably going to get revved. Okay. We can do a little bit of damage. It's not going to be too relevant. High noon, sure. Time in the round was just called. So that means if Glenn can win this game, which I think is possible. Ooh, wait, how did he cast the Soul Guide Lantern? The High Noon, he played a High Noon. Okay, might be an illegal play there. Because it looks like the High Noon resolved. Okay, and there was a handshake. I imagine the results of the other matches decided what happened there. I might go check out and see if I can find out what happened as a result. But it looks like round 1 is wrapping up here. Unfortunately, we didn't see the end of this match. I think it's incredibly likely that Glenn would have won that game and they would have gone to a game 3. But either way, the other 2 matches in this event decided the overall round event. So in that case, while round 1 is ending here, there's not going to be much that we need to put on screen. So I'm going to take this opportunity to do a bit of admin, try and work out what's going on. So I'll be right back and I'll leave you all with Charlie again. Hi everyone, Volty here. Today's video was brought to you with the lovely help of my patrons and donors who you can see up here on screen. If you would like to financially support the content, there's links down below, and you can make sure that if you're able to and you want to help support the channel, that you can do so. You'll also get your name visible up here on screen as well, which is very cool. If you are watching this on YouTube, please consider subscribing. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps out the channel a ton. And if you're watching this on Twitch, please consider clicking that follow button as well. The bell will let you be notified of when streams are going live, but otherwise that's it from me. I'll catch you all next time.